Welcome to My Money Mindset podcast, where we explore how a healthy mindset is the foundation for financial success. Each week, we delve into mindset hacks and practical strategies to help you enhance your income, help you make more appropriate investments for yourself, and to improve your overall financial well-being. Join us on this journey to transform your financial future by transforming your mindset. Please note that the information provided on this podcast is for general information purposes only and does not constitute as personal, financial or health advice. It has been prepared without considering your individual objectives, financial situation or life needs. Before making any financial or health decisions, you should consult with a qualified professional or financial advisor to ensure the information aligns with your specific circumstances. So let's begin and enjoy this journey as each episode teaches us on how to improve our overall mindset that it overall improves our financial success. In this episode, I want to be able to discuss fear. Is it a friend or is it a foe? And how does it shape our lives down the end? By the end of this episode, I'm hoping to sort of enlighten a little bit about fear and where it derives from and how we can use fear to our best advantages when it comes to building wealth or financial gain. So I suppose the best off is to understand the primal reason of why fear is sort of implemented in us. And it's quite evident that it's something that protects us. So going back to, caveman days, that sort of stuff, fear is something that we've learned. Some people have a lot more fear of a lot more things and some a lot less. And why is that so? Well, fear derives simply by enabling, going back to ape-man, primal days, as in learning what is something that is dangerous and could potentially cause great harm or death, or, and when to identify. Fear helps us identify that potential danger. Now, obviously, we're not sort of running away from big, scary animals anymore and learning to hide into some dark crevice or cave or climb up a tree, and hopefully gravity does its help by not allowing that monster to or animal to climb that tree back in the primal days. And obviously we sort of don't really require that type of fear guidance. Well, in most instances anyway, although, walking down a dark street one day or something, you've always got to have your wits about you. But in a relation or correlation to your finances and your investments, fear is something that can often prevent you from getting towards your financial preference or your investment preference. Too much fear can often make you not get out, and it prevents you from doing so many things. And we often put that off in an everyday sort of way of understanding it. We procrastinate. It's also known as sort of, placing it in the too hard basket type of thing. So I'd love to get an investment property, but it's all too hard. And is it all too hard, or are you sort of making talk yourself out of getting that investment simply because you fear the potential journey, you fear the potential failures, you fear the potential people coming up to you and saying, oh, look, you're a failure, you didn't get there. Could be fear that you you're putting things off. So I'm going to get an investment one day, but I keep putting it off, or I know I keep putting it off, or subconsciously deep down you just identify and you do a self-reflection technique and you identify, hang on, I keep putting it off. Is it because I don't know enough about it and I fear the unknown? Often we say that, until you turn the light on in a dark room, you sort of tend to know what's in it. And education's the best way is a direct sort of way. I use an example of, if you don't run into a dark room because you fear something or someone is in that dark room and that you can't identify, you put the light on and it eliminates that fear. And knowledge or wisdom quite often, and experience for that matter, are something that enables us to educate us to not have that fear cause too many issues for us to gain financial or investment wealth. So it's not always a bad thing, fear. I think fear is something that helps self-preservation and in existence, right? So if we didn't learn to fear, or if we didn't fear things naturally, sometimes would be, literally, if we're not learning from things that are failures or could cause us harm, it sort of helps us with our self-preservation, right? So um, it enhances our lifespan. So how does this all correlate to investment and finance? Well, deep down in your fear, you obviously are preventing yourself from advancing forward, let's say, or moving into the next business or a next career move, or learning more, going back to school in another uni, doing your masters, whatever it might be, buying another investment property. When we evaluate it, and quite often we all evaluate and go, look, it's probably not now, it's a little bit later. And that's fine. It's not fear. That's a sort of educated strategy that we're implementing. And that's not necessarily fear, but sometimes we may tend to forget on how to sort of move forward or advance because we're out of the game. So let's say I have an idea today that I'm going to get an investment property. I'm sort of not going to, I'm going to put the goal aside. I'm not going to make a goal or a strategy or a 1 year game plan or anything like that. And you tend to sort of put it on the back burner. And that year you say, look, I'll put it in my calendar. I'll mark it down. In a year, I'll come back to it. And quite often that year, that 12 months can turn into 13, 14, 15 months. And really elongate it. And that isn't such a bad thing because obviously it's not a thirst in your life that you really, really wanted to do. Or there could be a distraction in your life. It could mean that you wanted to start a family or whatever it might be, or grow a business, and investment property is not your preference. It's more about the business or the career change. And they're smart moves, right? That's called knowing how to strategize into obtaining more financial gain and better prosperity in life. But what I'm sort of trying to get to is quite often that if you're not involving yourself into certain implements or goals in life towards getting or gaining you that strategy towards your goals or investments, you can tend to forget, and then with forgetfulness can sometimes implement a little bit of fear because I remember that and it was a little bit scary, but you vaguely remember it, and you could have brain fog or whatever it means over that particular way of getting that investment. So you sort of put it off, and it sort of doesn't get you anywhere, which means you're sort of somewhat wasting time. Now, I'll go back to, well, if you haven't bought the investment property that you want to get in 12 months or 24 months and it sort of slips away, it wasn't necessarily a real objective of yours. It probably wasn't on one of the priority lists, maybe, or was life distracting you? That's what you've got to ask your individual self, right? And self-reflective techniques are quite handy when it comes to that. So, but let's assume that you are sort of putting the investment property off or their finances off. It probably means that the time that you're wasting whilst not addressing your strategies towards your goals is time that you'll never sort of get back. What you want to be doing is reminding yourself of that goal or that investment property. And reminding yourself can often be done in ways of through education, increasing your skills or education, right, towards how am I going to derive to get an investment property or renovate it or flip a property, do the actual finances for it, practice and find out more about the finances, speak to my accountant and my broker, my business coach, whatever it might be, really enhance your education around, could be your skills around, could be fixing the property, speak to different tradesmen, draftspeople, architects, what can be done, that sort of stuff. You also increase certain things about data. So you gather data. You start looking for investment today. you know the suburb or suburbs that you're sort of interested in, the type of properties. You gather a lot of data. You start recording. A property was put on the market today, and down the track, I want to see how quick it's sold. Does it correlate to which agent is selling it? Where are the popular agencies? Who are those popular agent or real estate agents? What information can you get from them? There's a lot of information these days as data. Data collection is probably in direct correlation to your education, right? So the more that you increase and you learn more about what it is your goal is more about, so in this case, investment properties, the more the data that you have, if it's something like a business, you also want to correlate it to the industry that business is in. You want to get into transport, obviously look at the weaknesses in the transport industry. Looking at weaknesses can often help you find and speak to professionals in that industry. What are the challenges and what are the weaknesses that are in the industry or the business that you're thinking about getting into? You may have a lot of experience in that industry, but you could have been working for someone and now you want to do your own business, or vice versa. You've had your own business and want to work for someone, and sort of learn and have reevaluate. And the reason why you're making these decisions, as in to get a business or to change from owning a business into a career and work for someone, or change industries, is always to help improve finance or your livelihood, or you're spending too many hours operating your own business and want to sort of, work with a team that can sort of help you coordinate more of a family life and be in a better frame of mind to then start looking at your finances after you sort of settled down and so on and so forth. So these are all little micro steps towards you're bettering off your life, obviously. So that's probably where the advantages of fear sort of help us. They sort of tend to slow you down in your pace, allow you to think, allow you to learn, allow you to be mentored, to data capture, allow you to sort of gather more information collectively. Some people need more time than others when they're evaluating something. So just because someone could be really quick with their numbers and experience and they buy investment properties, or you find that they're better off at a career than you and they're, really excelling, there is things that doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to be able to keep up. The worst thing you can do, because that just creates anxiety, right? So know your limitations, know your strengths, your weaknesses, know where you would sort of excel and where you wouldn't. And if there's things that you think can help you improve, then address them, right? So you can't make time, but you can certainly help yourself learn and gather more wisdom. Now, the only thing is with fear, sometimes the double-edged sword of fear, as in the disadvantages are the lack of self-experience, right? So the more that you put things off simply because of fear or too much fear, is you're not really gaining any experience. So you're not sort of getting out there. You'll quite often find this when, people with their kids want to really shelter them, and they find that as the kids grow up, they're sort of sheltered and they're not good at sort of making decisions for themselves or so on and so forth. That's all an individual thing, right? So you've got to understand yourself and understand that, know when that if you have lack of experience, try turn it around. I'm not saying become an expert at things all round, but what I'm actually saying is experience in multiple facets of life, as in, it could be anything. And when it comes to investing, you've got to know how to read money, how to read inflation, deflation, understand the nature of money. How does money work? I mean, understanding how money works, quite often we just think of money as, well, isn't it just currency, or isn't it just an exchange? Isn't it just a metal coin or a paper bill that, we provide for goods and services, or it's a number on your screen these days that we sort of just work for, and then that enables us to acquire things. But when you understand the vehicle of money, money is something that, quite often we say, okay, my goal in life, I'm going to tackle my fears. I'm going to start making a lot of money. And however I do that is, I set that aside and I do it and I start making more money. But what are you doing with this money? Now, quite often a lot of people say, well, saving it for a deposit, saving it for this. Now, what happens here is fear can sometimes set inside your bank account. And what I mean by that is you start gathering all this money. It's so hard to obtain this amount of finance to derive for a deposit for a house, for instance, that you have fear of letting go. And that's great because you just don't willy-nilly let it go, right? So you make sure that you do it. But fear can sometimes become an obsession. So I'm obsessed with gathering all this deposit money. I don't want to let it go. And quite often I find some of my clients having a large amount of money and they get so used to having this number in their bank account, they just want to see it grow because they've got a fear as they're getting older that they're going to run out and if their super balances don't increase and that's a fear. Now, I'm not saying go and blow the money or spend it on just willy-nilly stuff, right? This is more about, I mean, let's look at it and let's break it down. This is more about experience and obtaining experience to learn. And when I say this, I talk about the lack of self-experience simply because that can inhibit and create more fears because you don't know what's around the corner and you hold on to this money. How does money work, guys? Well, just a quick one-on-one on what it is. What is currency? You know, we're saving this deposit to them. We provide the deposit for this investment property, as an example, or this business we're going to buy. And we go to the bank, we get a loan. The bank gives us the remaining balance of what's required for that, and off we go. Now, why do we look at investing? You've got to remember, it all comes back to well, let's not just say we're investing because, well, that's what you've got to do. Let's understand it and let's really break it down. We're investing because money depreciates. Simple. The money that you're saving or you're working or that you're getting paid in, as in currency, depreciates. The more that you hear about inflation, then the more or less, sorry, your money cannot buy. What? Really? So what I mean by that in simple terms is $1 today will buy you something. Now let's go, I'll use the analogy because I buy coffee every day. 5 years ago, a coffee would probably have cost me maybe $4, small cappuccino. Today it's probably worth about $6, $7. Now what happened there? Well, the milk, the coffee, the person, the barista making it, everything has gone up in price. So my dollar, if I would just save those $4 5 years ago, now if I go to buy that coffee with that $4, it'd probably kick me out of the shop and say, well, you can't afford it. Go buy something else, right? So all of a sudden now, $4 becomes $6. Well, that just means I've got to work a little bit harder, doesn't it? Well, that's inflation. Inflation brings prices up. Now, going back to investment, if inflation is bringing prices up, guess what happens to your house? Well, houses depreciate, land appreciates. So the depreciation on your house, which is another episode that I want to talk about depreciation in investment properties, great stuff. But going back to money, your money or what your dollar can buy today can't buy tomorrow. Your house is depreciating. Your land is appreciating. So you want to think that if you're buying land, well, you can't really rent it out and get a rental return. So there's the sort of double-edged sword there. But it's appreciating. Why people often say, oh, don't buy a flat, don't buy a unit, simply because flats and units can be built quite easily, especially in a city or close to, right, cities, because they're buildings, they depreciate. But then don't forget, you'll quite often find sometimes that units or these flats and apartments go up only slightly in accordance to the replacement of the materials and the tradespeople that goes to replace that. So if your building is depreciating and let's say you had to replace your house or your unit new for old, you've got to make sure, even on, and that goes back to your insurance policy, make sure that you can replace your building, if you've got a 3 bedroom home, with the same amount of money. So if your building to replace is worth about 500,000 to build in today's money, but was only built on 200,000 20 odd years ago, you've got to make sure that your cash can actually replace it. But that's the power of, or disadvantages of inflation with your money. So going back to fear, why you shouldn't really fear about letting money go once you know what you're going to do with this money and invest it properly, is understand why you're investing. It's simply because your money loses its power over time. That's it. And understanding that and appreciating that doesn't mean it's a doom and gloom thing. Doesn't mean you've got to work harder. The reason why you're investing and getting rid of your fears is simply because your investment is sooner or later going to help you in the future as you want to start to slow down. You hope so. As I get older, you want to speed up, I say. But that being said, a lot of people as they get older and wiser, they want to do more stuff in life and they want to experience more life and they want to get out there. They want to help more people do what they've done. They buy investments to be able to create more time for themselves as they get older. But that being said, fear can often induce anxiety. Yeah, because you start thinking, okay, I'm going to try and educate myself. I'm going to get some data. I'm going to get a mentor. I'm going to learn more. I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to improve my skills because I want to get rid of this fear. I want to minimize the fear. I don't want to get rid of it. I like it. It's actually an advantageous thing as we were talking. But I want to be able to sort of know when, what, how to invest and what to do with my money and learn more about my money. Now, we've also got to understand, knowing that, you've got to accept the fact that your mind is always going to think. And you say a lot of people have got what they call monkey mind. They call it monkey mind. I'm not sure where the expression came from, but monkey mind is your thoughts jump from branch to branch, like similar to that of a monkey. So you think of something, oh, I need to buy a new car. Oh, no, that means more money. That needs, got to work overtime. Oh, that means less time with the family. See how it jumps from branch to branch, and that creates an anxiety, right? Simply just because you thought of buying a new car. I mean, that's how our mind thinks. Now, you can't blame your mind for thinking too much, guys. So, okay, because the reason is that your mind has 5 senses working for it full time. And those 5 senses obviously being touch, sight, vision, yeah, smelling, hearing, and taste. These are all 5 senses that you can't really turn off unless you close your eyes, block your ears, block your nose, don't taste anything. Yeah, this is, don't touch anything. And these 5 senses, if they're not turned off and they're sort of autonomous, right? So if your eyes are open, you have to see something. And this information is getting fed into your brain. So obviously your brain is always going, what's this? What's that in front of me? Blah, blah, blah. What am I hearing in the background? It's quite often meditation techniques, which I think meditation is probably the most important thing in your life that I would always recommend to anyone. And learning different meditation techniques is so important, simply because it helps the mind rest. Now, there are a lot of meditation techniques that enhance breathing, and they do it via a lot of different ways, and I won't get too involved with it, but the meditation techniques to sort of control these 5 senses, or help you control these 5 senses, is a great way of having like too many thoughts in your brain. Now, quite often we always say, well, I can't, Mark, because I've got so many things on the go. My life is just full of things and I cannot stop thinking. At the best of times, I can slow down in thinking, but I can't. Don't blame your mind or really, put yourself down, or your brain, put it down, because simply your mind is always thinking, just like your heart is always beating, just like your lungs are always breathing. They're autonomous. They're always going to do that. We got to think and remember that our bodies are working for us and our mind is on our side. So appreciate the fact that it is thinking. those thoughts or those overthinking, what you would consider overthinking, or the things that you think, oh, gee whiz, that's driving me mad or something, just understand that your mind is going to be always on, just like your heart is going to be beating, your blood is pumping, your breaths, your lungs are breathing, that sort of thing. Yeah. Your body is repairing itself while you're sleeping. All this stuff. You can't, just because you think it, think that you are the power and you can turn it off like your computer. It's not like that. So appreciate the fact that you are able to think. What I would recommend in this is sort of not fearing the unknown with, what do I do with my investments is, and I've got too many thoughts in my brain and they're distracting, is start to learn to sort of control those thoughts. If you use the analogy of a garden, right? If I was to build a new home and put a beautiful garden outside and have left it that way, eventually weeds are going to start growing into my garden. Your mind is no different. If you do not always go out and trim the branches, make sure that you clean it and sweep it and mow it or whatever it is to keep that garden looking as though it was, apart from the growth of the plants, then you're crazy, right? Weeds are going to come. You need to sort of be able to improve your garden by pruning everything, getting rid of the weeds, and your brain is exactly the same. And learning is the best way of doing that. Learning, if you think of fear or fear growing in your mind, it's like a bad weed, a mad weed that's out of control. Learn to trim it, get rid of it. Don't get rid of it completely. You know that you're never going to get rid of the fear because it's in one of the five senses that you learn and so on and so forth. But understand that your mind is very similar to that of a garden. You've got to occasionally go in there and make sure that you're pruning stuff, you're cleaning it, you're keeping it nice and it's flourishing season by season. And that is education for the brain, right? So make sure that you're always learning and you're eliminating those fears, because learning is sort of the way of minimizing the amount of fear in certain things. The more that we learn, the more we understand, the more we can implement into strategies towards our goals. So that I think is a very important thing to understand. The main thing here is a healthy mind is also a healthy body. And what I mean by that, a healthy body, the body is what controls or carries the brain, that carries your mind, right? So without a healthy vehicle being your body or brain, your physical aspects, your mind is also directly linked to that, guys. So don't think that learning everything intrinsically in your brain or really just capturing as much learning about the brain and investments and finance are the best thing. Learn to take a break. Learn to break up the day with physical exercise that's going to improve your health or maintain your health, or make sure that your diet. Number one, guys, what is learn to eat, diet properly. You go, well, Mark, what the hell has that got to do with my finances? It's got everything to do. A healthy mind and a healthy body obviously correlates to a healthy life, right? So healthy life means that, well, yeah, I'm fit, I'm eating well, but my bank accounts is not doing so great. And at least you can start to grow your bank account with time. You will grow it. So make sure that the prime or the main constitution of your body is really, at the best level that you think. And it requires diet, it requires eating the right stuff, it requires so many other things to help. And it also requires you to understand that having exercise as a regular thing implemented in your day-to-day life. Now, exercise, I don't mean just going to the gym or having a run 10Ks a day. Exercise is probably what, 20 minutes? Yeah, some of you do 15 and you can break it up. Do 10 minutes in the morning, 15 at night, whatever. Do it during the day, in your lunchtime, walking, best exercise, get some oxygen, fresh air, that sort of stuff. That helps the mind. Yeah, it lessens your anxiety. The more oxygen that you have in your blood, you're increasing your breathing capacity. That increases, and it all correlates to your mind. Healthy body, healthy mind. So I really hope that you guys have taken something from this. I suppose at the end of the day, education is key. Health is probably the most pinnacle key in all of this. And the fact that you're able to sort of learn more and address your fears of the unknown is what we want to do. But don't kick yourself or hate yourself for ever thinking that fear is your worst enemy, and your mind, or monkey mind, as I was saying, your over racing mind that creates anxiety is also your worst enemy. Thanks again, guys.